Hi everyone, this is Jewish Talk, coming to you from NASA Community College on 90.3 WHPC, also streaming on the iHeart and iTunes app. This program is later archived on Spreaker.com. So again, hi there, my name is Rabbi Perl. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This all depends on when you are listening and joining us. So hello everybody on the radio, hello everybody online. Tell your friends and your family we can be heard directly online at nccradio.org. And of course, hello to the world, everybody in the world of WHPC, right here in Garden City, New York. Do you like your cantor? Good question, right? On Rosh Hashanah night, the Kazakhs captured the rabbi, the cantor, and the president of the synagogue, and granted them a final wish before they would be put to death. The rabbi, he says, all year I prepare my Rosh Hashanah sermon. You can't kill me before you let me present this sermon and get it out of my system. Okay, proclaimed the Kazakhs, we will allow you to give the sermon. They turned to the cantor. How about you? What is your final wish? For 365 or 4 days a year, I prepare my cantorial presentation on the high holidays. For this year, I compose many new brilliant and extraordinary compositions. You have to let me sing them before you kill me. Granted, said the Kazakhs. And you, they said, turning to the president of the synagogue, what is your final wish? And he said, kill me first. Dear friends, a little humor. Don't get so serious. It's been a long-standing tradition among Jewish communities the world over to employ for the high holiday services cantors, often accompanied by choirs, to entertain, engage, and inspire the multitudes of crowds that flock to the synagogues during the 3 days of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. In many a congregation, the cantor embodies the primary focus of the high holiday experience. As in a concert or an opera, the cantor's choice of melodies, his cantorial skills and manipulation of sounds and pitches constitutes the zenith of the services, especially if the musical presentation is coupled with a rabbi who knows how to tell a good joke or bring a tear to the eye. It's a hands-down, success story. The Talmud tells us, spit not in the well from which you drink. I should be the last one to find fault with this phenomenon, since I, too, of course, I'm part of the synagogue, Congregation Beth Shalom Chabad of Mineola. So I want to tell you a little story to help you appreciate the role of the rabbi, the role of the cantor. And I want to tell you a moving thought from the great master, the Baal Shem Tov, concerning this cantor and rabbi phenomenon that may be worthwhile for all of us to reflect upon as we prepare ourselves for Rosh Hashanah. The Baal Shem Tov, one of the most profound thinkers in history of Jewish spirituality, once shared this following allegorical story. Once upon a time, says the Baal Shem Tov, the lion grew furious with all of the other animals, the other jungle animals. Since the lion is the king of the animal life and is the most powerful and dominant, his ire evokes such deep fright in the hearts of all the other animals. What should I do? Murmured all the animals at this emergency meeting. If the lion lets out his anger, we all will be finished. No worries, came the voice of the fox, known as the williest of the animals. In the reservoirs of my brain are stored 300 stories, anecdotes, and vignettes. When I present them to the lion, his mood will be transformed. There was a wave of joy rushed through all the animals as they embarked on a march towards the lion's home in the jungle, where the fox would placate him and restore his friendly relationship between the lion and his subjects. During the journey through the jungle pathways, the fox suddenly turns to one of his animal friends and says, "You know, I forgot 100 of my entertaining stories." Rumors of the fox's lapse of memory spread immediately. Many animals were overtaken by profound trepidation. But soon came the calming voice of Mr. Bear. "No worries," he said. 200 vignettes of a brilliant fox are more than enough to get that arrogant lion rolling in laughter and delight. A little while later, as the extraordinary large entourage of animals were nearing the lion, Mr. Fox suddenly turns to another colleague. "Oi," he says, "I've forgotten another 100 of my anecdotes," lamented the fox. "They simply have, slipped my mind." The animal's fear became stronger, but soon enough came the reassuring voice of Mr. Deer. "No worries," he said. 100 fox stories will suffice to capture the imagination of our simple king. A few moments later, all of the hundreds of and thousands of animals were at the lion's den. The lion rose to his full might and glory, casting a very fierce gaze at all of his subjects, sending a shiver through their veins. As the moment of truth arrived, all the animals looked up with beseeching eyes to their bright representative, the fox, to approach the lion and accomplish the great mission of reconciliation. At that very moment, the fox turns to the animals and says, "I'm sorry, but I forgot my last 100 stories. I have nothing left to say to the king." The animals went into hysteria. "You're a vicious liar," they cried. "You deceived us completely. What are we going to do now?" "My job," says the fox rather calmly, said, "Listen, I'm sorry." And he said, "Listen, my job was to persuade you to take the journey from your own nests to the lion's nest. I've accomplished my mission. You are here. Now let each and every single one of you discover his own voice and rehabilitate his own personal relationship with the king." This story, concluded the Baal Shem Tov, illustrates a common problem in institutionalized religion. We come to synagogue on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur or any other time of the year, and we rely on the foxes, the cantors, and the rabbis to serve as our representative to the King of all kings. The rabbi's sermon today was unbelievable, we often proclaim after services. He is really a very special man. Or that cantor, wow, his voice just melted my soul. These clergy all too often become the foxes who know how to get the job done for us. Yet sooner or later, we come to realize that the foxes, with all due respect, don't really have what it takes to address the king on behalf of you and me. Each of us must discover his or her own inner voice and inner passion and spirit, and speak to God with a distinct and unique voice. Cantors and rabbis during the high holidays, and the rest of the year, of course, ought to view themselves as the Baal Shem Tov's fox. Their function is to persuade and inspire to leave their own self-contained domains and embark on a journey towards something far more deeper and real. But each and every one of us must ultimately enter the space of God alone. So this Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, don't rely on any foxes. Speak directly to God with your own words and with your own soul. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest today. We're very honored to have with us Charles David Levine. He represents the 13th Assembly District that consists of the portions of northeastern Nassau County. He serves as the chair of the Judiciary Committee and a member of the committees on codes, ethics and guidance, rules, and insurance. But we've invited you today. Good morning. Good morning, Chuck, for joining us today, because I've always been impressed with you, impressed with your knowledge, your passion for Jewish life. But let me first, I'd like to talk a little bit about that. But first, I'm very impressed with the two areas amongst many of your wonderful accomplishments that relate to the notice by museums of art stolen during the Nazi era of Europe. And then perhaps share with us how you've incorporated into law instructions that regard symbols of hate to be incorporated into the curricula for the grades 6 and 12. Please share that with us.
Well, Toda Rabbi, my friend, for the invitation to be on your show. And I appreciate your kind words, and those kind words are coming right back at you, my friend. But as you know, I was the student when I was a youngster of a very well-known Lubavitcher rabbi with whom I'm still in touch. But in addition to being chairman of Judiciary Committee, previously chair of the Elections Law Committee, previously chair of the Ethics Committee, I'm also privileged to serve as the president of the New York chapter of the National Association of Jewish Legislators and as a member of its National Board of Directors. So this National Association of Jewish Legislators is a loose-knit group of Jewish legislators in state houses throughout the country. It was established many years ago when there was a necessity to pass state laws allowing for Holocaust survivors to have their reparations payments processed in the United States and throughout the states. So, and beyond that, Rabbi, I grew up in a home which was far from here, in a small town in the upper Midwest, where the Holocaust was ever present. I grew up with a grandmother who spoke next to no English. She spoke almost exclusively Yiddish. And wow. When they said the worst things about people that children weren't supposed to hear, my grandmother and father would speak in Russian, which I never learned. But her entire family, except for one sister who came with her to the United States, was obliterated. They were murdered in the Holocaust. And this was a constant area of concern. And she, for all her life, grieved. So then I was very fortunate to have been able to attend the University of Wisconsin and come to New York, practice law, and be elected to my city council and to the New York State legislature. But I am acutely aware of the price that is paid for racial hatred. And as a consequence, I drafted the legislation that mandates that New York museums displaying works of art that were stolen by the Nazis must be accompanied by a visible record, a placard, acknowledging that fact. Let us face it. In the United States, there is a growing authoritarian movement, and it's not simply here. It's throughout the world. And there are constantly efforts made to minimize what occurred to a civilian Jewish community during the years of the Nazi rule. And so I think that we have to do everything we can to make sure that Americans and people throughout the world are aware of the price that is paid for hatred, for racial prejudice. And so I was very pleased that Governor Hochul signed that bill into law and signed that bill into law a month and a half ago at the Museum of Jewish Heritage in Lower Manhattan. Right.
May I ask you, Chuck?
Certainly.
It simple comes to mind. If it's stolen and you're insisting that there should be a sign on there, how come stolen stuff is still hanging on walls? Is there no effort to return it to its rightful owners, or it's beyond that? And I mean, how?
That's a wonderful question. There are efforts made, and there's a tremendous amount of litigation going on in New York and Europe, in which the families of the rightful owners are seeking to regain many of these works of art. There were hundreds of thousands, many hundreds of thousands of works of art that were stolen by the Nazis. Many of them have been returned to the extent possible to the families. Litigation does continue, but there remain hundreds of thousands of works of art that were stolen that are now being exhibited in museums throughout the world. And it's the greatest artists of not only the contemporary world, but the world of the early 20th century and previous centuries. So these works of art are there. They exist. There are registries, reputable registries that document which of these works of art were subject of Nazi theft. And so many of them do end up being exhibited in museums. Some of them are even owned by the families of those from whom the works of art were stolen, but they're still exhibited. And I think it's important from an educational point of view that the public in general has full recognition of the fact that the provenance, as they call it, the background of these works of art involves Jewish blood, and Jewish blood is still on them.
Fantastic. You know, as we prepare ourselves for the new year, what message could you give to the younger generation? You look around the world today, young people are not the same. They're facing very trying times. We see what's going on even right now. Recent days in Russia with the mobilization and the reactions, but in general across the United States, younger people coming out of COVID, or in general, what message can you share with them during these rather confusing and challenging times?
It is the same message that I learned from Rabbi Yehuda Leib Posner. Hatikva, hope. We have to have hope. And if we have hope, we can fight for what is right. And we must all fight for what is right.
The Rebbe, in way back in the 60s, when there was the whole, Woodstock and all these kinds of things. So the older generation were very upset. Look at these rebellious children, rebellious young people, and all of what was going on over there, flower power and everything else, free love, etc. And the Rebbe just saw it totally different. He said, no, this is a younger generation who want change. They want reality. They want something real, not looking for a positive, powerful, really transcending experience in life, something more spiritual. And they weren't rebelling against life, but they were looking for something more deeper. I think the same is going on today. And I think that's, we're not giving them the opportunity. We're trying to create an environment where it's really not real. There should be a return back to something more real, more moral standards and appreciation of people who work hard. Don't you find it perhaps as in the leadership positions that we're not giving them enough of what is really real?
There are many mixed messages, and some of them very damaging, being sent by many of my political colleagues. But with respect to what you just mentioned, which is represents tremendous wisdom, that there has to be freedom. There has to be freedom of expression. I say simply this, two words that I learned in law school: Alavai, Amen.
That's right. As long as it's alavai and not chalava. Chalava is something else. We are speaking with Charles Levine. And he represents the 13th Assembly District. You've taken time out from your busy schedule to join us here today. So all of us here on Long Island and beyond can learn more about how hard you work and on the important issues of the day. Can you just give us, what would be your uprising, your rousing? If you were the rabbi of a synagogue, what would be your message into the new year?
We have to stand up for what is right. Now, I'm not one to generalize or stereotype, but there is so much in our Jewish heritage that does teach and instruct on the moral value of standing up for what is right. Even if what we stand up for is not popular, we have to stand up for what is right. We are not simply innocent bystanders with respect to what goes on in the world. Everyone makes a difference, and we have to make, and when I say we, it's not just us Jews, it's everyone. This is something I hope is uniquely American. We all have to make a difference for the better, and now is the time for us to make that difference for the better.
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful, deep message. I want everyone to know that my friendship with you goes for many, many years. And each year you've been a tremendous advocate for our Good Deed Awards for Long Island teenagers, where young men and women of all backgrounds come together and are recognized for their good deeds. And that has impressed me, that it's not a political event. People from all backgrounds come to show the young generation that we care for their good deeds. And we want to thank you for that, Chuck, for always taking time out and supporting these young men and women. And I recently actually performed a marriage. A young man and a woman came to me for a marriage, and it turns out that he had received a Good Deed Awards way back in the 90s. And now we hear from many of these students, and you're playing an important part of that. And we want to take on behalf of everybody here to wish you and all your good officers a very happy, healthy, and sweet new year. And we appreciate very much your steadfast advocate for the strong lines, of course, between the United States and Israel. We want to thank you for that as well, and all your good work. Thank you.
Toda Rabbi, my friend. Shana Tova. And with respect to the Good Deeds Awards, I'm honored to be able to participate. But you, my friend, are the person who deserves the recognition and the honor for putting that program together.
Thank you. But as they say, it takes two to tango. So I got a good partner. Thank you so much again to you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi. Be well.
Let's continue with some ideas and thoughts to inspire us for this Rosh Hashanah. It was the day before Hanukkah. A woman woke up in the morning and told her husband, "I just dreamed that you gave me a magnificent diamond necklace for Hanukkah. What does this mean?" He smiled. "You'll find out tonight." That evening, he returned home carrying a small, beautifully wrapped package and gave it to his beloved wife. She excitedly opened it and found a soft cover book entitled The Meaning of Dreams. Dear friends, what is Judaism's dream? What does it hope for? It is, as we say in today's majestic, in the Musaf service, L'saken olam, to fix the world, to turn the earth into a paradise and make society a just and gracious and a godly place. There's a blessing that tells us how to realize that dream. Many of you know this blessing by heart. It is one we say over bread, Hamotzi. Blessed are you, God, Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, who brings forth bread from the earth. It's a strange blessing. God does not bring forth actual bread from the earth. Challahs do not sprout from the ground. Hashem brings forth grain. People work hard to plow the ground, the field, plant the seed, water the ground, harvest the grain, grind the wheat, and bake the bread. So why thank God for bringing forth bread from the earth? We do all the work. Then God takes all the credit? Why should this be? I found the answer while reading about the cure for scurvy. For centuries, scurvy was a dangerous disease that killed millions. Then, in the 1930s, a Hungarian biochemist, Albert Szent-Györgyi, became fascinated with a pair of questions. Why does a banana turn brown when hit? And why doesn't an orange turn brown when hit? The answers to those seemingly trivial questions ultimately won him a Nobel Prize. This individual, Szent-Györgyi, soon discovered that plants contain a polyphenols, and when the plant is damaged, these compounds react with oxygen and the bruises turn black or brown. This naturally led to the next question. Why do those plants bruise, turning black when damaged, and others do not? What makes the difference between these two outcomes? He found that plants that don't bruise contain vitamin C. This sugar-like vitamin prevents oxygen from oxidizing the polyphenols into the black compounds. You can even tell the vitamin C levels of different fruits simply by noting which ones turn brown when damaged. Now, this doctor's discovery of vitamin C and its effects became foundational in modern nutrition. Vitamin C helps keep bones healthy, regenerate cells, strengthen the immune system, and it outright cures scurvy. Millions of lives have been saved and millions more revitalized due to this doctor's insights that flowed from simple questions about everyday observations. It turns out that we need a divine human partnership to cure scurvy. God created the sun, the seeds, the soil, and the water, and we have nothing to do with this natural process. But if you want to cure scurvy, you need human intelligence to analyze why a banana turns brown and an orange doesn't. It is the human mind that reaches to extrapolate and understand the exact compound that constitutes vitamin C. This divine human partnership is beautifully expressed in the bread, in the blessing that we make over bread. Thank you, God, who brings forth bread from the earth. We thank God for bringing forth bread from the earth because we are giving thanks for the divine human partnership. In other words, we express appreciation not only for the gifts of nature, soil, seed, sun, and water, but also for the gift of human nature that enables us to transform sheaves of wheat into bread and compounds like vitamin C into cures for deadly disease. We express gratitude for this synthesis, the blend of the given and the discovered. This also explains why the Birchat HaMazon, the blessing after eating bread, is elaborate and lengthy, while only a short after blessing is said for eating fruits and vegetables. Now, this seems odd. We might expect that God should be thanked more for the gift of his exclusive involvement in creating fruit and vegetables than of his partial assistance in his preparation of bread. No ingenuity is needed to craft an apple. The opposite, however, is the case. The more human beings participate in the effort to prepare the food, the more we thank God. Our gratitude is increased with the privilege of being his partner. As our investment rises, so does our deep sense of being blessed. When we partner with God and others, we realize the dream of turning earth into a paradise. We gain a glimpse into the world that will yet be. I share with you a fascinating encounter between a Roman governor called Turnus Rufus and Rabbi Akiva. Rufus began by saying like this: "Whose work is greater, those of a human being or those of God?" So Rabbi Akiva answered, "Well, the works of human beings are greater." Now this Turnus Rufus, a pagan, was confused by this answer. He had expected the great rabbi to extol God and minimize the achievements of man. To explain, Akiva brought the Roman governor wheat stalks and loaves of good bread, raw flax, and fine linen garments. "The wheat and the flax are the work of God," says Akiva, "but the bread and the garments were made by human beings. Are not the bread and the linen more beautiful and superior?" Akiva is saying that the world is God's unfinished symphony, and he has gifted us the talents and the ability to complete it. Our mission in the world is to add notes to that symphony every day in every way we can. He has created the rough draft, and the job of editing and polishing belongs to us, just like the effort we make to read the Torah on Shabbat and on Mondays and Thursdays. The Torah itself is just the letters. The human being, the one who reads the Torah, learns how to read it. He puts the vowels and he puts the trop. He puts the musical notes. That belongs to us. Many people view their work as simply a means to an end. They view the synagogue as a sacred and work as secular. But they can't believe God bends down to partner with us in the soap opera of our daily trials and tribulations at work. So Rabbi Akiva reminds us that our work is sacred too. God wants us to use our creativity and our ability to build a better world. Every day in work, through scientific progress, building, producing, teaching, volunteering, you partner with God to create divine music. Anything that adds dignity to the human condition is a mitzvah. Let me tell you a story. A Manhattan rabbi drove out to upstate New York to visit a Jewish farm couple. He came upon the most beautiful farm he'd ever seen. The fields were beautiful, cultivated, and abundant with well-cared for crops. The fences, the house, the barn were clean and neat and freshly painted. A row of fine trees led from the road to the house, where they were shaded lawns and flower beds. Amachai. It was a gorgeous sight to behold. After getting out of his car and making a little small talk, the rabbi said, "God sure has done a magnificent job here." And the farmer thought for a moment, and then he said, "Yes, he has, and I'm grateful. But you should have seen this place when God had it all to himself." Each one of us is a farmer. Our life is a plot of ground that God has given us, gifted to us. But the planting is left strictly to our efforts. There are things God is willing to do, wants to do, but he has chosen to do and to do them only in response to our work. God cannot build a peaceful world unless we, his children, help him by acting compassionately. God cannot build a loving home unless husband and wife partner with him by caring and respecting each other. God cannot forgive our misdeeds unless we help him by repenting and by doing teshuvah. A man came to a Hasidic master and asked the rabbi to pray for him that he should be virtuous and not sin. The rabbi closed his eyes in deep meditation and announced, "I was successful. My prayers were accepted. God is completely in agreement that you should be virtuous and not sin. The rest is now up to you." So much is up to you and me. There can be nothing more empowering. God helps the poor with the charity that we give. He illuminates our home with the Shabbos candles that we lit. He guides our children to wrap tefillin with the example we set, and ennobles our lives with the mitzvahs that we perform. We are the means through which God achieves his ends. And here ultimately is why you and I are here on this world. God needs us, each and every one of us. We are joined with him in a great partnership. Creation is a divine symphony, a true living masterpiece in progress, with you and I crucial to the performance. Rabbi Akiva reminds us of our ability and our responsibility to add our unique note to the symphony of creation. We can hear, this divine human symphony replicated in the notes of the shofar blowing. And I encourage everyone to please be in synagogue to hear the shofar, not just the one day, but the 2 days. Each day brings different blessings to our lives. Nobody goes on vacation just for 1 day. In order to clear our minds and enjoy and take benefit of a vacation is more than 1 day. So too, in order to lay the foundation for blessings for this coming year, we need 2 days, not just 1 day, but a complete 48 hours. 48 hours, 48 number equals in Hebrew the word moach. Moach is the Hebrew word for brains. The way we treat our 48 hours of the 2 days, that's how the whole year goes. So again, in the notes of the shofar, the Jewish mystics teach that the sound of the shofar is really a parable of history. Each series of the shofar blasts begins and ends with a takiyah, a whole note. In between are the shvarim and the trua, those broken notes. So apply this in the parable of history. First, the world was created whole. Then it was broken, and in the future it will be restored once more to wholeness. We live in the middle, in the fractured reality of human history, in the broken state of human imperfection. These notes are our home. Our role as human beings is, with Hashem's help, to fix the cracks within ourselves and the world around us. The sound of the shofar reminds us that the power to shape our lives and the world lies in our hands. It reminds us of the work we still have to do. The Nobel Prize winning Yiddish author Isaac Bashevis Singer wrote a delightful short story, A Tale of Three Wishes. The story tells of three children who hear that whatever makes a wish late on a very special night will open up the gates of heaven and their wish will become true. So one child, Shlomo, wants to be as wise as King Solomon. The second one, Moshe, desires to be as learned as Maimonides. And Esther wishes to be as beautiful and as courageous as Queen Esther. They stay up all night to make their wishes. Finally, the moment comes, quickly, unexpectedly. Distracted, Esther says, "I'm hungry. I wish I had a blintz." Miraculously, she had a blintz. Shlomo, so angry with Esther for wasting her wish, says to her, "I wish you were a blintz." And guess what? She turned into a blintz. Moshe, seeing this fiasco, uses his wish to bring back Esther. They could have had everything, but ended up with nothing. Devastated, they began to cry. An old man appears. They told him what happened, and Esther explained that heaven tricked them. The old man responded, "Heaven does not play tricks. You are the ones who try to play tricks in heaven. No one can become wise without experience. No one can become scholar without studying. As for you, young lady, you are already pretty, but no child can possess the devotion of a queen who was ready to sacrifice her life for her people. Go home and try to deserve by your own efforts what you wanted to get so easily." The children went home and followed the old man's advice. They put in all the effort. In time, all three of them became exactly what they wanted. The story ends with Moshe, now the town rabbi, teaching people. For those who are willing to make an effort, great miracles are in store. For them, the gates of heaven are always open. Friends, may we put in the effort. May it be a year in which those gates of heaven swing open and great miracles are in store. And now, as we prepare today and tomorrow, of course, the first day and the second day, as we prepare to hear the blowing of the shofar, let us hear within those sounds the voice of God beckoning us to partner with Him. So let us consider a small change, one new note in the divine human symphony, perhaps putting on tefillin, lighting a Shabbos candles, or giving more charity. And may you and all those near and dear to you be inscribed for a happy, healthy, sweet new year when the dream of repairing the world is finally realized. This summer, when I was traveling with my family, I asked the flight attendant, greeting everyone at the door to our plane, if my son could see the cockpit. He loves flying, and I knew it would make his week or his year. Guess what? She said, sure. When you enter the cockpit, the first thing you see is a device called the altitude indicator, right in the center of the instrument panel. This device shows the pilot the plane's position relative to the Earth's horizon, even in conditions of fog or darkness. If the pilot wants to ascend for a liftoff, he tilts the head of the plane up. And if he wants to descend for landing, he tilts it down. It occurred to me that the same principle holds true in life. If the thoughts in your head tilt upward, if you think positive, choose to be grateful, see the best in others, and make your mind up to enjoy the day, you'll keep rising higher. You'll gain altitude and lift others with you. But if thoughts pitch down, if you're negative and ungrateful, you're going to move in that direction. The great founder of Hasidic movement, the Baal Shem Tov, summed up this idea in 6 words. 6 words that can change our future. You are where your thoughts are. You are where your thoughts are. Yes, if you think happy thoughts, you will be happy. This is not a metaphor. It is part of our biology. The psychiatrist J.A. Hadfield vividly illustrates the point in his book, The Psychology of Power. He asked 3 men to test the effect of mental suggestion on their strength, measured as they gripped a device. He told them to grasp the device with all their might under 3 conditions. When he tested them under normal waking conditions, their average grip was 101 pounds. When he tested them after hypnotizing them and telling them that they were weak, they could grip only 29 pounds, less than a third of their normal strength. When he tested these men a 3rd time, he told them under hypnosis that they were strong. That time, they were able to grip an average of 142 pounds. When their minds were filled with positive thoughts of strength rather than negative ones, their actual physical strength increased by almost 500%. Such is the incredible power of our thoughts and their ability to transform us. So, what can you do? What can we do to become a more positive thinker in this new year? First, set aside time every morning to pray and meditate. Prayer is a spiritual attitude indicator. It gives us time to reflect on the direction we're heading and asks us if we need to correct our course. Prayer focuses our mind on gratitude and wonder and towards elevated goals. It helps us to see the world as a happy place. It tilts our thoughts upward. It is a simple task or simple tweak, but it takes our attitude higher, rights our compass, and improves our day. This year will be stressed or blessed. This is the choice we get to make every day. We are the pilot of our thoughts. A small attitude tweak affects the direction that our life will lead in this coming year. Mentioning the Baal Shem Tov, he taught that the world is a mirror. The defects that you see in other people are often a reflection of your own shortcomings. You ask, if I happen to see a flaw in another, why is it an indication of a defect in me? Perhaps you're being objective, seeing things clearly where others are squinting. A simple story illustrates why the Baal Shem Tov's insights rings true. A young couple once moved into a new neighborhood. On their first morning there, while they were eating breakfast, the wife looked out of the window and saw her neighbor hanging the wash outside to dry. She noticed the wash was dingy and dirty and said to her husband, "That lady doesn't know how to wash correctly. She needs better laundry detergent." The wife made the same comment every time her neighbor hung her wash to dry. "That lady doesn't know how to wash correctly." A few weeks later, she looked out the window and the lady's clothes were sparkling clean. Surprised, she said to her husband, "Look, she finally learned how to wash correctly. I wonder what happened." And the husband says, "Honey, I'll tell you what happened. I got up early this morning and cleaned our window." The problem wasn't that the other lady had dirty laundry. The problem was the window she was looking out of wasn't clean. It had nothing to do with the clothes and everything to do with the perspective. How dirty your neighbor's clothes appear depends on how clean your window is. If you're always finding fault with those around you, says the Baal Shem Tov, he suggests that your window is dirty. The problem is not external, it's eternal and internal. So the Baal Shem Tov suggests, when we notice faults in others, when we see their dirty laundry, we should direct our attention inwards to discover where we can make a change. And if we do so, soon we'll all be looking through sparkling windows. The floor might be ours, but so is the ability to fix it. So before leaving the synagogue on the night of Rosh Hashanah, it is customary to bless one another, Lashana Tova, Tikasei v'seichasei. May you be inscribed and sealed for a good year. According to the Talmud, only the perfectly righteous are immediately inscribed and sealed in the book of life. By giving this greeting, we start the year off by judging our friends generously. We start the year looking through that sparkling window and giving such beautiful blessings generously to everybody around us. So when we go to synagogue, we make, even if we're sitting with people we don't know, especially people who don't know, and you turn around and wish them a good year to be inscribed and sealed, that is one generous way to earn Hashem's blessings to ourselves to make such a difference. Let's continue these ideas. It will help us throughout our high holiday season. The other day, I saw a headline that made me think. It asked a simple question: what difference does God make in life? Well, if there's no God, everything is kosher. Is that good or bad? If there is no God, there's no reason for your existence. Life is without ultimate significance, value, or purpose. I once read a science fiction story about an astronaut stranded on a barren chunk of rock, lost in outer space. He had with him 2 bottles. One contained poison, and the other a potion that would make him live forever. Realizing his predicament, he gulped down the poison. But then, to his horror, he discovered that he had swallowed the contents of the wrong bottle. He'd consumed the potion for immortality. And that meant he was condemned to exist forever, a meaningless, unending life in a remote corner of the cosmos. Without God, humankind is that astronaut, a doomed race floating in a meaningless, dying universe, its days an unending procession of emptiness. You might ask, but isn't my life significant because it affects others and events? What does it need the divine for? True, your life might be important relative to certain other events, but if every event is ultimately meaningless, what can be the ultimate significance of influencing any of them? In a godless universe, we're all left with this despair. But if God of the Torah does exist, then life has meaning, history has purpose, humanity has destiny. We are not spinning the world, but only on a divine spin itself with the help of Hashem. The Lubavitcher Rebbe once put it this way: if you have a whole string of zeros, it amounts to nothing. If, however, you place the number 1 before that string of zeros, it turns into an astronomical number. If there's no God, then we're basically an accident of nature, the result of matter plus time plus chance, a string of zeros. When you place one God before the zeros, every digit of reality is transformed. They are the soul of existence, woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Our holiest prayer, the Shema, tells us, Shema Yisrael, hear, O Israel, contemplate deeply that God is one. Think about it, because you can't be neutral about God in practical life. You need to choose to live as a believer or an atheist. You live either as if life is random chance, dictated by the throw of dice, or if it is infused with an ultimate meaning. So, let me repeat, we can't be neutral about God in practical life. Shema Yisrael, attention, the greatest, the simplest, and the briefest statement in Jewish faith is Hashem Echad. God is one before all the zeros. Now, I hope everybody during the services, wherever you may be, take some time, even today or during these services, to look up the commentaries, get an idea of what you're reading, what is being said, and why it's being said. In our synagogues, we give kind of a short-running commentary so everybody appreciates why we're in this synagogue. Now, one of the prayers that we say is called Oiseh Chesed B'Yom Din. God, well, let me explain it to you, otherwise it sounds really funny. I was going to say that God trashes truth. This stirring poem, it's called Le'el Orech Din, begins with an intimidating tone. God sitting in the judgment, on the day of judgment, but soon the theme of God's compassion enters. On this day, Rosh Hashanah, the poem continues. He reveals his love, extends his compassion, and assures us that even when we have acted against his wishes, Hashem forgives when we are truly repentant. God's judgment is softened with love. There's a remarkable medrash about a conversation between God and the angels about whether human beings should be created. Can you imagine? When God was about to create Adam, he asked the angels to vote on whether the world include people. The angels split into opposing groups. Some said, let him be created. Others said, let him not be created. The angel of kindness said, let humans be created because they will do good, kind deeds. The angel of truth said, let humans not be created, for they will be full of falsehood. The angel of righteous said, let humans be created, for they will do righteous deeds. The angel of peace says, let humans not be created, for they will never cease fighting. The angel's vote was split 2 against 2 as to whether human beings should be created. It was a deadlocked ballot. And the Medrash concludes, what did God do? In a tremendous democratic act, he grabbed the angel of truth and hurled him down to the earth. Then God proceeded to create humankind. This is a challenging medrash. Why did God throw truth to the ground? Why did he disregard his vote? God is demonstrating, the medrash intimates, that kindness, righteousness, and peace are more important than truth. When truthfully your friend or spouse or child or parent doesn't deserve kindness, bury truth and be kind anyway. It leads to a better world. We make the best choices when we imitate God most completely in how we conduct ourselves. You know, we regularly perceive, by contrast, sunlight and shadow, height and depth, steak and salad, salt and pepper. All too often, we become aware of blessings only after they have departed, when the sunny warmth becomes apparent in the chill of the night. Yet we can learn to appreciate them at all times. What do we say in our prayers? For your wonders and your gifts are with us each moment, evening, morning, and noon. Encourages recognition of life's blessings in their presence, not in their absence. Every moment we are surrounded by wonders. Let us not wait until they are gone to appreciate them. In that spirit, this short prayer of Modim is more than just a prayer. It's a plea for a particular kind of mindfulness, an attunement of the heart, to sing and celebrate daily the myriads of blessings that surround us in so many different ways. I continue these thoughts that go through my mind as we prepare ourselves for the great new year, 5783. Do you ever feel blah? Do you ever feel that your mind and your emotions and your responses are blunted and dull, that you're not getting anywhere or everything that you can out of life? Most of us have felt that way at some point. We might have wished that our lives included an emotional Photoshop app to brighten the colors of our mind and our moods. We want things to be vivid and bright. This app doesn't exist yet. Nevertheless, if you find yourself feeling a bit dull, you can sharpen yourself. And let me tell you how. When you encounter a true friend, there's an open interchange of feelings, honest dialogue, vulnerability, and encouragement. There is challenge and there is uplift. This sharpens us. As this prayer says, we are blessed with unity in friendship. Human beings are marvelous creatures, but we must have good friends to develop our maximum potential. Just as our bodies develop through exercise, our best self is developed only in friendship. As Proverbs put it, as iron sharpens iron, so a friend sharpens a friend. Notice sharpening comes only in friendship. You may be full of gifts, talents, and potential, but without a true friend, you will remain dull. The world comes alive when we connect with someone else. When Henry Ford dreamed of building a car with an engine, he started developing it. Everyone told him it wouldn't work, that it wasn't a good idea, that nobody would want a car with a loud motor. Nothing could improve on a horse, they said. He was about to quit when he attended a dinner and met Thomas Edison. Ford was introduced as the man trying to build a car that ran on gasoline. Edison peppered Ford with questions, and when Ford outlined his plan, Edison's eyes lit up. He pounded his fist on the table and yelled, "You've got it! A car that has its own power plant. That's a brilliant idea." In the years that followed, Ford often spoke about how that friendship kept him going. Automobile history changed because Ford was sharpened. Nobody changes the world alone. God puts us together so we would sharpen each other. Don't use your iron to say hurtful words that cut like a dagger. The way you sharpen others is by showing genuine care and cheering them on for what they're doing right. Be a voice that pushes them forward. Be an Edison, and find an Edison. Find friends that bring out our best. Find those people who will sharpen you and encourage you to be all that God intends each and every one of us to be.